Imagine the most famous Egyptian queen in human history. You're probably picturing heavy black eyeliner, golden headdresses, pyramids, and a whole lot of desert mystique, right? Well, take that image, scrunch it up into a little ball, and throw it in the trash. Because the ultimate queen of the Nile, the absolute icon of Egyptian history, wasn't even Egyptian. That's right, she was Greek, Macedonian Greek to be exact. She belonged to the Ptolemaic dynasty, a family established by one of Alexander the Great's generals. And let me tell you, calling her family tree a tree is a massive biological insult to nature. It wasn't a tree, folks, it was a wreath. A straight-up circle of aggressive inbreeding that makes Game of Thrones look like a wholesome Disney Channel original movie. They married their brothers, sisters, uncles, and cousins so frequently that their DNA must have looked like a tangled bowl of spaghetti. Welcome back, Brainiacs, to the BrainBoost English Podcast, the only show on the internet that takes the boring, dusty pages of history, shakes off the cobwebs, and serves them to you with a side of absolute chaos and pure, unadulterated facts. I'm your host, and today we are tearing down one of the biggest Hollywood lies of all time. We are talking about the ultimate mastermind, the original gaslighter, and the absolute queen of the flex, Cleopatra the Seventh Theophilopator. Strap in, because everything you thought you knew about this woman is basically ancient propaganda. Let's kick things off with Section 1, the Great Hollywood Beauty Myth. When you hear the name Cleopatra, who pops into your head? Probably a jaw-droppingly gorgeous actress like Elizabeth Taylor or Monica Bellucci, right? A woman so breathtakingly stunning that grown men would literally trip over their own sandals just to catch a glimpse of her. Yeah, no. Sorry to burst your bubble. If we look at the cold, hard, historical receipts, specifically the ancient silver coins minted during her actual reign, Cleopatra was, well, she was no supermodel. Let's just say she had a very strong profile. We're talking a prominent hooked nose, a severely protruding chin, and a rather sharp masculine jawline. She looked less like a Victoria's Secret angel and more like George Washington on the quarter, but with a worse temper. But hold on, before you start feeling sorry for her, you need to understand something crucial. Cleopatra didn't need a symmetrical face. She was operating on a completely different level of the game. While other royals were busy admiring their reflections in polished bronze mirrors, Cleo was busy maxing out her skill tree in intelligence and charisma. She was basically playing 4D chess while everyone else was eating the checkers. First of all, she was a certified linguistic genius. Remember how I said her family ruled Egypt? Well, for 300 years, not a single one of her snobby Greek ancestors bothered to learn the local Egyptian language. They forced everyone to speak Greek. But Cleopatra? She was the very first Ptolemy who actually sat down and learned the language of the people she ruled. And not just Egyptian, she spoke 9 different languages fluently: Ethiopian, Hebrew, Aramaic, Syriac, Median, Parthian, you name it. She could negotiate a trade deal, declare war, and probably insult your entire ancestry in 9 different tongues without ever needing a translator. And then there was the voice. According to the ancient historian Plutarch, who, by the way, admitted she wasn't a conventional beauty, Cleopatra's voice was like a multi-stringed musical instrument. It was ancient ASMR. She possessed a weaponized charm, a razor-sharp wit, and a magnetic presence that could mentally conquer any man in the room within 5 minutes of conversation. She didn't seduce men with her body, she seduced them with her massive, intimidatingly sexy brain. Which brings us to Section 2, the most audacious, ridiculous, and brilliant special delivery in human history. The year is 48 BCE. Things are looking incredibly bad for our girl Cleo. She is currently fighting a brutal civil war against her co-ruler, who also happens to be her 13-year-old brother, Ptolemy XIII. Her bratty little brother had chased her out of the capital city of Alexandria, and she was basically in exile, plotting her revenge. Enter Julius Caesar, the most powerful, dangerous, and famous man in the entire Roman world. He marches into Alexandria to settle the dispute between the siblings. Little brother Ptolemy thinks he has the upper hand because he's in the palace with the Roman general. Cleopatra is locked out of the city. If she tries to walk through the front gates, her brother's guards will slice her into shawarma. So what does a genius, multilingual queen do when she needs a private, one-on-one meeting with the most powerful man on earth? Does she send a letter? Does she beg for an audience? Nope. She invents the world's most aggressive form of DoorDash. Under the cover of darkness, Cleopatra grabs her most trusted servant, a guy named Apollodorus. She tells him, "Hey, I need you to sneak me past hundreds of heavily armed, trigger-happy guards straight into the heavily guarded royal palace, directly into the private bedroom of the Roman dictator." Apollodorus probably looked at her like she had lost her mind. How? And Cleopatra, being the absolute madwoman that she was, climbs into a large sack. Now, Hollywood loves to romanticize this and say it was a beautiful, luxurious Persian rug, but historical sources suggest it was actually a linen sack used for storing blankets or bedclothes. So yes, the Queen of Egypt folded herself up like a cheap lawn chair, shoved herself into a laundry bag, and had Apollodorus tie it shut. Apollodorus casually throws the Queen of the Nile over his shoulder like a sack of dirty gym clothes. He walks right past her brother's guards. They see a servant carrying bedding and don't even bat an eye. He marches through the palace halls, kicks open the door to Julius Caesar's private quarters, drops the heavy sack on the marble floor, unties the rope, and out pops a 21-year-old, brilliant, wildly charismatic queen, tossing her hair and essentially saying, "Hi, I'm the solution to all your problems." Imagine being Julius Caesar in this moment. You were a 52-year-old balding military general, used to people bowing and trembling before you, and suddenly, this tiny, incredibly bold woman literally unboxes herself in your living room. It was the ultimate power move. It was audacious, it was hilarious, and most importantly, it worked perfectly. By the time her brother woke up the next morning, Cleopatra had already manipulated Caesar into backing her claim to the throne. From a dirty laundry sack to controlling the ruler of Rome in one night. Now that is how you slide into someone's DMs, ancient style. But wrapping herself in a sack to seduce Julius Caesar was just the warm-up act. It was merely the prequel to her true masterpiece. Because Caesar wouldn't live forever. And when he was out of the picture, Cleopatra had to deal with Rome's next big tough guy. And to conquer him, she wouldn't use a laundry sack. She would use the most expensive, mind-boggling, arrogant flex in the history of wealth. A stunt so ridiculously expensive, it makes today's billionaires look broke. How exactly did she casually drink millions of dollars in a single gulp just to prove a point? You are not going to want to miss this. But before we get to the million-dollar cocktail, if you are enjoying this episode of the BrainBoost English Podcast, do me a massive favor. Smash that subscribe button, leave a 5-star review, and drop a comment below telling me would you have the guts to smuggle yourself in a laundry bag. We'll be right back with the greatest financial flex of the ancient world. Welcome back. Before the break, we left our brilliant polyglot queen Cleopatra basically sliding out of a laundry bag to casually take over the mind of Julius Caesar, and it worked beautifully. She got her throne back, had a kid with him, and Egypt was safe. But then the Ides of March happened. Caesar got canceled permanently by his own senators.
Suddenly, Cleopatra is a single mother back in Egypt, and Rome is plunging into a massive civil war. The new guy in charge of the Eastern Roman Empire? A general named Mark Antony. Enter Section 3, the ultimate frat bro of antiquity. If Julius Caesar was the calculating, serious, silver fox CEO, Mark Antony was the guy doing keg stands at the company Christmas party. He was a brilliant soldier, sure, but he was also famously obsessed with partying, drinking, theater, and luxury. He was basically the ancient Roman equivalent of a billionaire playboy. Antony summons Cleopatra to the city of Tarsus to question her loyalty. Now, a normal, terrified queen would have rushed over begging for mercy. Not Cleopatra. She ghosts him. She literally makes him wait for weeks. When she finally decides to show up, she doesn't just arrive, she orchestrates the most expensive, highly produced theatrical entrance in human history. She sails up the river Cydnus on a massive royal barge. But this isn't just any boat. The stern of the ship is coated in solid gold. The oars are made of pure silver, rowing in time to a live orchestra playing flutes and lyres. The sails? Dyed in Tyrian purple, a color so rare and expensive at the time that just an ounce of the dye cost more than a literal brick of gold. And the cherry on top? Cleopatra is lounging under a canopy woven with gold thread, dressed up as Aphrodite, the goddess of love. She has her servants dressed as cupids fanning her, and she's burning so much exotic incense that the entire city of Tarsus can smell her coming before they even see the boat. Antony is standing on the dock, entirely abandoned by his crowd because everyone ran to the riverbank to look at this floating masterpiece. By the time she stepped off that boat, Antony was completely, hopelessly, 100% whipped. She didn't just win his alliance, she hacked his brain using his own love for theatricality. But the absolute peak of Cleopatra's reign, the moment that cements her status as the undisputed heavyweight champion of flexing, brings us to Section 4, the $1 million cocktail. Fast forward a bit. Cleopatra and Antony are basically the ultimate ancient power couple. They even formed their own exclusive drinking club in Alexandria called the Inimitable Livers, which translates to the guys who live the best. They spent their winters throwing lavish banquets, playing pranks on people, and spending money like it was going out of style. One night, Antony is bragging. He's telling Cleo, "Look at this feast. Look at these roasted boars. You've never seen luxury like this. Rome is the richest, greatest empire on earth." Cleopatra, who is sitting on the accumulated wealth of a 3,000-year-old civilization, probably just rolled her eyes and sighed. "Antony, sweetie, this is cute, but I bet you I can spend 10 million sesterces on a single meal." For context, 10 million sesterces today would be worth tens of millions of dollars. Antony laughs in her face. He accepts the bet. There is no physical way a human being can consume tens of millions of dollars in one sitting. It's impossible. The next day, Antony shows up for the banquet. He looks around. The food is great, sure, but it's just normal rich people food. No gold-plated peacocks, no diamond-crusted grapes. He smirks, thinking he's won the bet. "Is this it, Cleo?" he asks. Cleopatra just smiles her famous, terrifyingly smart smile. "Oh, this is just the appetizer." She signals to her servant. The servant walks over carrying nothing but a clear glass goblet filled with a strong, highly acidic vinegar. Antony is confused. Then Cleopatra reaches up to her ear. She is wearing a pair of earrings made from the two largest, most flawless, most absurdly expensive natural pearls the ancient world had ever seen. She casually unhooks one of the pearls, a gemstone worth the GDP of a small country. She holds it over the glass. Antony's eyes go wide. You're not..." She drops the priceless pearl into the vinegar. The highly acidic vinegar immediately begins to eat away at the calcium carbonate of the pearl.
She sits there, maintaining direct, aggressive eye contact with Mark Antony, while millions of dollars literally dissolve into a cloudy, shimmering liquid. Once the pearl is completely melted down, Cleopatra picks up the goblet and chugs the whole thing, the most expensive boba tea in human history. She sets the empty glass down, burps gracefully, and reaches for the second earring. But the judge of the bet, a guy named Plancus, jumps up, grabs her hand, and screams, "Stop! You win! Cleopatra wins! Please stop drinking the treasury!" And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the ultimate power move. She didn't do it because she was thirsty. She did it to send a crystal clear political message to Rome. Egypt's wealth is infinite. Do not mess with me. Which brings us to our final takeaway. Section 5, the real legacy. For 2,000 years, history, mostly written by angry Roman men, has painted Cleopatra as a seductress, a tragic lover, or a woman who just used her body to get ahead. But the truth is so much cooler. She was a CEO, she was a naval commander, she was an author, a mother, and a brilliant diplomat who kept her country independent from the unstoppable Roman war machine for over 2 decades. She used every tool at her disposal: theater, money, languages, and yes, even a laundry sack, to survive in a world dominated by ruthless men. She wasn't just a queen, she was the absolute mastermind of the ancient world. And that's a wrap on today's episode of the BrainBoost English Podcast, where we boost your brain with the wildest facts history tried to hide. Now, I want to hear from you. What would you do if you had the money to drink $1 million pearl? Would you do it to flex on your ex, or would you just buy an island? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, leave a rating, and share this episode with that one friend who still thinks Cleopatra looked like a Hollywood model. Until next time, keep your facts straight and your brain boosted. Catch you later.